Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again to our little farmhouse project here in Medford, Massachusetts. Lots of progress today. We're in the backside of the house installing a beautiful mahogany deck. Also, we're putting down tumbled concrete pavers all over the place. We're also putting in the veneer plaster inside the house and a replacement for the old barn door. Stick around. It's good to have you home again. Now, the backyard deck on this house is 42 feet across, the whole width of the house, and comes off 10 feet off the back of the house. It's an unusual design. It's really like an oversized balcony. And obviously, all the structure is done out of PTL. And the posts that you're seeing here are not for any kind of a railing. They're actually the supports for post dressings or wrappings that are going to be put on over them to support trellis work that goes in this section on top of the French doors and on another section over there. It's a complicated design scheme. And what Charlie and Matt are doing right now is basically finishing up the picture frame for the decking. Decking is going to be made out of beautiful 5/4 mahogany stock. Where do you nail it first, Charlie?
We take one, just bring it about an inch in from the edge.
At one end.
At one end. Nail that guy right in. And then we nail the other end.
And then before
we nail it totally, we just sight it,
eyeball it, make
sure
it's in where it wants to be.
Get it where it wants to be.
Is that good? There you go.
That's it right there. And we'll just come along every 16 inches, get a nail in. Drive the heads all the way. And just set them. Nail set. That's our perimeter.
And then the final piece
is the end one. You just bring that in at the miter. Throw that in there.
This mahogany is just beautiful to work with. And you can leave it alone, just leave it to the weather.
Yep.
It'll silver up very, very beautifully.
Very nice deck material.
Now we'll start putting in the decking material at the other end. If left unfinished, all this mahogany will take on a beautiful silver sheen. This is Lightning brand mahogany. It's from the Philippines and is from renewable forests, but it's a product that I particularly like for decking because of the wearability and because of the silvery color it takes on. What they've dropped here for us is about 1,400 lineal feet that comes totally randomly packed together in a lift, and the fellows have already sorted out some of it by length. It goes everywhere from, I think, from 6 feet to 20 feet. This is a 20-foot bundle right here, but I think we'll take some of the smaller ones to begin. All right, so now we've got an assortment of lengths on the structure here. And what's the advantage of having all these different lengths?
This will make the job go a lot quicker, Bob.
I would think so, yeah.
Yes, it will.
Because we've got 20s all the way down to 6s. Now, is there any particular pattern that you're going to lay them down in?
Basically, we like to keep it, I like to keep it where I space my joints at least 32 inches apart. I'll have a joint similar to like here, and then 32 inches away at minimum, keep it there, and then we just keep going along like that. We just keep staggering.
Staggering them at least 2 bays in every
instance.
2 bays away, correct. Okay, and as you'll notice over here, we've got a bunch of 16-penny spikes that are temporarily put in position to create a spacer. That's the spacer that we'll use in between the boards as well as in between the butt ends of the boards and the picture frame that we've already laid out. Okay, can we start nailing some of these? These are going down with stainless steel nails, annular ring nails, 2.5-inch deck nails. It's the best way to put them in.
We don't want to set these nails home with our hammer.
No, you want to leave them just on the surface and then use your nail set.
Correct.
To drive them home.
Come right back and set them afterwards.
That's to avoid putting any kind of dimples onto this beautiful mahogany. Now sometimes the best thing to do with the butt ends is to pre-drill to make sure that you don't split the end of the wood by driving a nail that's that close to the end. When we come back, we'll put down tumbled concrete pavers for the back entry. Okay, well, we're going to be working now on the street side of the house where the barn entry is and the back side and the breezeway. We'll talk in a minute with the fellows that are installing all of this product, but this is a tumbled concrete paving material. And right now, let's get together with Brian Kallmeyer from Unilock. Hi, how are you, Brian? Tell us about this, because, I mean, concrete has been around as a paving material for a while, but I'd never heard of it being tumbled.
Right. Well, it starts out as a concrete paver, which is a high-density concrete.
What does that mean, high-density concrete?
The specification for this is a minimum PSI of 8,500. Typically, if you poured wet concrete on the ground, you'd be working with about a 3,500 PSI mix.
Pounds per square inch.
Correct.
And how do you attain that 8,500?
Well, we take a pretty dry mix, and what we do is we put it in a three-story machine that presses it, and we get very high compaction out of it and compression out of it. Typically, our tests will run about 10,000 to 11,000 PSI.
Right.
We're fortunate in this area. We have some very good aggregates, and we can make a real dense product.
So it has nothing to do with the amount of Portland that goes into the mix?
The percentage of Portland is important, but we use a standard Portland, and it's no more than in a wet concrete. We just, between the aggregate mix and the press that we use, we can get this density out of it.
Yeah, and here in New England we have a lot of granite, which is an extremely hard...
It's a nice product to work
with. Yeah, I like the look of it because it does look like something that's been here for a long, long time.
Well, that's what happened. About 8 years ago or so, we have a lot of ties in Europe, and they're using a lot of this tumble product in Europe, and we came across and we started throwing this stuff into a cement mixer to try to see what it looked like antiqued. And
so there's no great mystery.
No.
You just take the finished product that looks shiny and square, you throw it into an old cement mixer and roll it around.
That's how it started. Now it's gotten a lot more elaborate because the demand has gotten so great for this.
Okay.
You know?
Now, is it easy to work with? How do you cut it?
The nice thing about this stuff is, A, it is easy to work with because it's so dimensionally stable versus a natural stone that we're trying to duplicate that's very irregular. These are made in a mold, so they are very dimensionally stable, so it's
now,
much
what
easier.
What is this thing?
This is basically a lever action on a guillotine cutter.
All right, I'm going to try it.
Okay. Give it a good little push down. There you go.
A good little push down. Okay.
And what's nice about it, it gives a pretty clean cut.
Indeed it does. Plus you expose all the aggregate so that if you're using it in certain applications, you could show that side as well, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, let's take a look over here and meet Nick Pastore, who's the installer on the job. So, Nick, can we interrupt you and talk a little bit about the installation?
Sure can. How you doing?
Now, what's a certified installer? Did you have to go to a special school to...
Unilock hosts classes at their facility in Uxbridge that are put on by Unilock Corporate that myself and my supervisors go to.
Now, does this lay down a lot more easily than a natural stone like a Belgian paver?
It does because it's all uniform.
Yeah.
So it's real nice to work with. Everything's, you know, pretty well smooth edges.
It's square and it's always the same dimension. Now, what have you done to prepare the bed here?
Well, first we put a compacted gravel base down, about 12 inches. And then we bring...
What we're looking at now is just a sand,
This is a sand bed that's actually laid on top of the compacted gravel.
Is this the stuff?
Nope, that's the sand for the joints.
Oh, I see. That's what you add in later.
We use just a regular wash sand. These are just aluminum, 1.5-inch aluminum electrical conduit.
What's that doing for you?
That's on top of the gravel base, and that gives us the proper height.
Oh,
we set these, make them level. If we need to put any pitch in, we set the conduit to the pitch that we need.
And then you can screed with the 2x4.
Correct.
Well,
we fill in between it, run a straight piece of 2x4 aluminum, anything with a straight edge over it to set our sand base. We'll pull these out, fill it in, trowel it over, and then set our pavers in place.
So it goes pretty quickly. Let's just watch.
Okay. Matt here's laying them in. Just tap them into place. Make sure they're all jointed together pretty good.
Okay, so the conduit has done its job, and now you got to add a little bit of sand there, right?
Just going to take the trowel and fill in the void left by the conduit.
Okay. Now, there is going to be a fair amount of settlement here, though. You're saying you'll tamp everything down?
We'll use a vibratory plate compactor.
And pavement failure isn't just having one crack on you, but also if it settles on you, end up with a lot of puddles in your area.
The product's not going to crack. It's a matter of the pavement settling underneath. So the base Nick was talking about, they put down 12 inches of base here. We had some pretty heavy soils here. So they excavated out and put 12 inches of base down. And compacting that in lifts is important.
We can't put 2 inches down at a time.
Compact it and then add another 2 inches.
Correct. That way you have compaction throughout.
In tight areas like this, there's a lot of handwork with mallets and stuff, but typically on a larger area, they'll do it all by machine. They'll lay the pavers out and then put the edge restraint in and run over it with the compactor to get them all settled down.
Okay. Now, Nick, how do you deal with these curves here?
Well, Bob, what we do is we take a full paver, and we're going to have to mark it because obviously a full one won't fit in there.
Yeah.
We mark it on either end, and then we take a wet saw and we cut it. It's a straight cut on a curve. It'll fit in, and the joining sand will fill it in, so you won't notice anything.
All right, let's see how it fits.
Just kind of drop it in there.
Yeah, doing masonry work with machines makes a difference, I guess.
It does.
Now, speaking of which, we want to tamp all of this down.
Yes.
Can you show us how that works, Brian?
Sure.
Now, this is the polymer sand, which just gets spread out, right?
It's a polymeric sand, yes. And typically what we'll do is we'll run all this.
So that has to happen on the entire thing, and then maybe a lot of rain would help. One last question, what about the edges on an installation like this?
It's very important. You know, the dynamics of a modular pavement is that they want to creep outwards, especially when you put loads on them.
Right.
So it's most important that we put a good competent edge restraint in.
So this is the restraint right here. It's made out of
PVC material.
PVC. So you simply drive the spike into the ground and that holds it in place.
That's correct. The nice thing about this type of restraint is that it only picks up the bottom half of the stone because, again, we're only trying to keep it from walking out.
Great.
So it allows you to bring your landscaping right up to the pavement and make it contiguous.
Excellent. Well, come on, Brian. Let's see how he's making out with that little terrace over there.
Alrighty.
So this looks great, Nick. You got all the curved pieces in place. And now this is the same sort of sand, but here it just gets swept in?
Correct. We're going to sweep it in, and then we'll run that compactor over it again one final time. And when we're all said and done, we'll just put a little water on it and bind it right up.
Nice job. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Bob.
Coming up next, the master suite gets a coat of veneer plaster. Stick around. All right, doing a plaster job in an old house like this one often will involve patching as well as new work. And Chris Borovka is here from USG to explain a little bit about the process. What are we doing in this room? We've taken out a door, so we got a big patch. We've insulated, so we've got a lot of small holes that have been patched. And then we've got new walls like this that are just new blue board.
Mm-hmm. So actually what we did was put some imperial gypsum base up to the existing door frame. Fill that in. What we've done is we've patched the existing hole with diamond veneer base coat. We've put fiber tape over. It's a pressure sensitive heat tape over the existing, and we've bonded the entire existing surface.
So what is this pink stuff? It's a type of bonding agent?
USG Plaster Bonder Pink. We make pink and clear.
Yeah.
What happens is you put the base coat over that, it re-wettens, re-emulsifies, and then the plaster has an adhesion that goes right onto it.
So what they're ready to start doing now involves this coat.
Absolutely.
Okay, now how do you deal with where the wall meets the ceiling up there? Don't you have to worry about cracks?
What we're going to do is we're going to apply the pressure-sensitive tape.
So it's the same tape that you used at the patch?
Exactly. Up to the existing surface and embed it in while he's applying the first coat of base coat.
Okay.
Jay, would you like to?
Yep. Okay.
Take your tools.
Watch it shot.
All right, so Chris, explain just what's happening here, because we're putting a second coat on now, right?
Yes. Basically, what the first coat does is you put a nice scratch coat in, get a nice even coat. Second coat, come back over.
But you don't have to wait for the first coat to dry.
No, you don't wait for the first one. You want the second coat, first coat to be fully wet. Applying a second coat just to take out some of the bed dips, dives, put in, take out your trowel marks, and get a nice smooth finish.
And then that's it for today, but then the next day?
The next day you put your finish coat over it. What happens is right before this sets, it has about an hour set time. Right before it sets, Bob, they're going to take a brush and put a nice key in it so the finish coat adheres to it in a structurally sound manner.
Okay. And then what about sections like where the insulators drilled all their holes?
What you do is you use the plaster bonder pink. You put the bonder around the inside of the hole, you fill it in with the base coat. And what we've done is we've meshed over the top of that for extra security, and then bond over the whole surface.
Then you bond over the whole surface.
Yes.
Great. Okay, now on this partition, this wall where it's all new blue board, it's a different type of installation, right?
It's a one-coat application, what they're applying on this procedure here. Basically what Sharif is doing here is he's applying one coat over the joints to reinforce them and fill in the undulation that's left from the two end tapes, or the joint.
Exactly,
the butt joints.
Exactly. Now, how long does this have to set up before you can actually put the plaster coat on the whole wall?
That'll set up in approximately an hour, and then it's ready for the finish coat to be embedded over the top.
All right, so you got to keep it wet at all times, but this is the end, right?
Yeah, once it starts to get the initial brown out, we're going to give it a little bit of water, give it a nice polished, smooth look.
Okay, it's going to be beautiful. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thanks, Bob.
All right.
Next, we'll install a set of oversized doors to replace the original barn entrance.
Okay, well, the last activity of the day involves an oversized door that we've received from KML Industries in Canada, and this replaces the old barn doors that were here, which were very inefficient. They're made out of pine, I think probably ponderosa, thermal insulating glass, and they're 9 by 10 feet. The whole setup is. So heavy. But I bet you it's not as heavy as the ones that were here, right, Jimmy?
No, these are real heavy.
Probably 300 pounders or
Probably
thereabouts.
close to it.
Now, what did you have to do to the existing frame here before we can put the doors in place?
Well, the existing wall is way out of plumb, so we plumbed it with these 2x4s.
Pressure treated.
Yep, and we're going to keep the door flush with the inside so that when you swing the door, it'll swing open all the way and not hit the jamb.
So you'll be able to open it 180 degrees.
Correct, yep.
And have the double opening work really well for you. Okay, are we ready to bring it up?
Yep.
I'd help, but then I'd be trapped in there. 1, 2, 3. And Matt is out here ready to drive home some screws that are going to hold it in place against the jamb. What a beautiful door. Twin panels of glass and then 4 raised panels on the bottom and glass side lights. Ready? Good. We're running out of time. Come home again next week
when we'll be installing floor systems. One goes down without using any nails, and the other one is made out of glass.
Till then, I'm Bob Vila. It's good to have you home again. For lots of information and resources for your home improvement project, check out my website at bobvila.com.